Hold on to your seats, folks, because this week's news has delivered a political powder keg with Labour's latest budget for the strivers. And, as you'd expect, it's left GB News host Eamon Holmes practically seething. Just who are these strivers Labour is planning to help? And does this label mean anything to the millions watching the government's next fiscal steps like hawks? Holmes didn't hold back when he grilled Labour's Pat McFadden on this vague and seemingly pandering label. His frustration practically boiled over, demanding, "Is that not most people, Pat?" But McFadden's attempts to clarify only fueled the fire, with broad, evasive responses that left many wondering, does Labour even know who they're aiming to support? And just when you thought things couldn't get any murkier, the clock is ticking toward the October 30th budget unveiling, where Chancellor Rachel Reeves promises to deliver stability amidst a so-called fiscal black hole Labour claims the Tories left behind. Reeves and Starmer are doubling down on tough decisions, but with a hike on employer national insurance contributions and a drastic bus fare cap raise, who will actually benefit? Is this truly a budget for the people, or just more broken promises? Now, let's dive into the heart of this scandal and expose every jaw-dropping detail you need to know. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned until the end to unravel the full story. As the Labour government stands on the cusp of unveiling its much-anticipated autumn budget, GB News host Eamon Holmes took it upon himself to strip away the mystique around Labour's promises, specifically the enigmatic label of strivers. When Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Pat McFadden, attempted to define the term, Holmes fired back with laser precision. "Is that not most people?" Holmes pressed, challenging Labour to stop hiding behind political jargon and be upfront with the British public. Was this a genuine attempt by Labour to signal support for the hard-working backbone of Britain, or merely a rhetorical smokescreen meant to blur the reality of their tax hike plans? Let's backtrack a bit to where it all started. Rachel Reeves, Labour's newly instated Chancellor, made waves in her recent Sunday column, proclaiming that her budget aimed to aid strivers. To the average Brit, striver is one of those classic political buzzwords that might sound nice but is ultimately hollow without definition. And so, Eamon Holmes demanded clarity. When McFadden's best answer amounted to somebody who goes out and tries hard every day, Holmes wasn't buying it, pressing McFadden on why Labour couldn't simply call it what it is, a policy aimed at easing the financial strain on low and middle-income households. If Labour truly sought to help those striving daily, why the vague and elusive language? To make matters even more contentious, Prime Minister Keir Starmer is expected to defend Reeves's upcoming budget with a speech focused on the harsh light of fiscal reality, preparing the public for a series of economic tough decisions. One of the most contentious of these is a reported hike in the employer national insurance contribution rate by at least 1 percentage point, a measure Reeves is said to believe will help balance Labour's purported £22 billion financial deficit. Critics have immediately jumped on this move as a stealth tax that could disproportionately hurt employees who will likely see reductions in their salaries as employers pass down the added cost. According to data from Policy Engine, an independent think tank, employers currently pay an additional £2,884 for each worker earning £30,000 per year. If the employer national insurance rate rises from 13.8% to 14.8%, this cost will increase, and businesses might respond by adjusting salaries to offset their expenses. Policy Engine's analysis indicates that for businesses to keep costs stable, salaries would need to drop to around £29,818. In short, many workers could feel the pinch of Labour's purportedly progressive policy in a very regressive way. In another controversial pre-budget announcement, Starmer revealed that the £2 bus fare cap, a policy introduced by the Conservatives, will be increased to £3 until at least 2025. While Starmer and Reeves insist this is necessary to cover rising costs, it's a move expected to yield around £350 million annually for the Treasury, a hefty sum generated off the backs of commuters, particularly those in rural areas where bus services are essential due to a lack of other public transportation options. Labour's supporters might argue that this is a small price to pay to dig Britain out of an economic hole, but advocacy groups, such as the Association of British Commuters, have blasted the decision as deeply harmful to already struggling rural communities. Emily Yates, a co-founder of the association, warned that raising the cap will leave the very people it's meant to help even worse off. Declining bus services, she argued, have exacerbated poverty and social isolation in rural areas, often forcing families to purchase cars they can't afford simply to access jobs, shops, and healthcare. Labour, she suggested, may be more focused on plugging financial gaps than supporting the people relying on these services. But it's not just about the bus fare or national insurance hikes. Many are raising eyebrows at Starmer's personal evolution, or some might say transformation, from a hard-left activist with deep Marxist roots to a middle-of-the-road Labour leader. Recently unearthed articles from the 1980s Socialist Alternatives magazine, which Starmer founded, reveal an ideology far removed from the pragmatic, centrist image he now projects. These articles paint a picture of a young Starmer deeply critical of capitalism and advocating for radical reforms like stronger trade unions and a 35-hour workweek. He condemned the use of paramilitary policing tactics in protests and questioned the role of the police, asking provocatively, who are they protecting and from what? These revelations clash starkly with the image Starmer presents today. The self-described middle-of-the-road Prime Minister now champions a balanced budget and fiscal responsibility, and in doing so distances himself from his Marxist past. While political evolution is natural, his journey from firebrand leftist to centrist statesman leaves critics wondering whether Starmer's current platform is driven by sincere convictions or convenient expediency. And with a Tory-sized deficit to tackle, Starmer is willing to embrace policies that his younger self would likely have railed against. To add fuel to this inferno, bombshell research has surfaced revealing that Labour's anticipated national insurance hike could make employees up to £3,000 worse off annually. Financial analysts from Tillit, an investment platform, have warned that an increase in employer contributions could destabilise pension contributions, undermining the future retirement security of British workers. In a nation already on the brink of a retirement crisis, with more than 80% of households reportedly falling short of adequate retirement savings, this could be the tipping point that sends financial futures spiralling. It's an uncomfortable reality for Labour, who had initially built their platform on promises of prosperity and equality. As Chancellor Reeves prepares to address Parliament on October 30th, she faces the monumental task of defending a budget that, at least on the surface, appears to counter Labour's promises to shield the working class. Will Reeves be able to navigate this minefield, or will Labour's high-wire act of balancing fiscal responsibility with progressive values collapse under the weight of its contradictions? In a country where every penny matters more than ever, the stage is set for a fiery budget day. Will Labour's policies live up to their rhetoric of rebuilding Britain for the many, or are they setting the nation up for another round of political spin, broken promises, and economic disparity?